Ooh, this that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know it's getting buried. Social justice, yeah, the stuff you need to know about. Fucking politics that the corporate news won't cover. You know they don't think that you could see under, but you can now, cause the people we cover, they may not be famous, but their stories should be heard. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Monday. This is April 13th, and I have totally lost count of which episode number this is, but welcome to the show. Happy Monday to you post-Easter. Andy, good morning. How are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic, and I'm lying.
Right. It was an adventurous night for us. There was a lot going on. This is day 2. So I think maybe I had 3 hours of good sleep. So yeah. This will be great. Woo! Monday.
We've got the paw marks on the pants, right? The dog coming from the trailer to say hello, walks through the puddles, and then goes on your pants.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely. That's what it feels like February. The way the weather is going. We had snow last week. Now it's rainy and cold. And yeah, it's crazy. But I had a couple things I wanted to talk about before we bring on our extra special super duper guest this morning. One of them was an article from The Intercept that I don't have a clip of, but we'll post a link to it. The Intercept, once again, at the forefront of news, they were talking about how, I think it was Hawkfish, Michael Bloomberg's consultant group, the people who ran his campaign, are now vying to take over Joe Biden's. And what was so interesting about it is it's completely funded by Mike Bloomberg. And in it, they're totally open about, well, we have no success to show you and we can't prove our worth, but we're really eager for Mike Bloomberg to take over the Democratic Party and get access to all the tools.
Well, hang on. Now, didn't he just successfully buy the Democratic Party?
He did, and I think what he's looking for are those receipts. He wants to get a hold of all the voter data and the donor data and all of those good things. So let's remember that Mike Bloomberg is a Republican. Or wait, no.
Hang on. He's a Demopublican.
Yes, in the same way that Trump was a lifelong Democrat, but now he's a Republican president. So to me, it's like the tugboat that is the DNC has completely flipped over. And with that, you have the wholesale purchase of the Democratic Party. And now on Twitter, this was amazing to me. You have Frank Luntz. For people who don't know who Frank Luntz is, he's an evil genius. He is the guy who does the communications, or has for over a decade, for Fox and Republicans. All the people that you love to hate in Congress. He gets hired because he's really good at it. He finds those key words that people respond to depending on the audience. Like freedom and patriot, and he will build ad campaigns targeted to that audience. So we don't need to worry about Russia. We have people like Frank Luntz who are doing amazing, sinister work to influence people. Right?
I believe when he talks, he does the
right,
and
exactly.
he does the expanding laugh.
Yeah, you know him. Absolutely. No, he's a very vanilla kind of guy, right? So I'll see if I can find a video clip of him doing a focus group. But I come from a communications background, and as a student, we all studied things about what not to do. That kind of manipulative marketing, that places you just don't want to go. He is pole vaulted right over the line, which has made him a multimillionaire. Well, he is now siding for Biden and harassing Bernie surrogates on Twitter. So I'm like, we have completely flipped roles with
Audacity. There needs to be one party in the U.S. Just one. Just call it the pancake party, right? It just flips. Just flips over. We're Republican today. We're Democratic. Just back and forth.
Are you saying that because you're Canadian?
Yes.
Yeah. The pancake
Yes.
party. It's gotta have syrup on it.
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problems.
Okay.
So I thought that was. I'm sorry. I thought that was completely interesting because now we have gone the full tilt. But then the overarching question that's going on social media is, okay, so Bernie supporters numbered, I'm gonna get this wrong, but 4 million volunteers at last count that I recall. Could be way higher. Well, each one of those volunteers was making phone calls and sending emails and doing texts. So now the question to Team Biden is, rather than vote shaming people and doing the bully tactics, how many of you are signed up for phone banking? Reasonable. And what you keep seeing over and over again is, well, I pay somebody else to do that. I'm like, no, honey, no. That's not how support for your candidate works. You have to do the personal touch. You can't just buy it.
Let's not forget that 63% of Biden supporters still have a VCR that's flashing 12.
Yeah, so I'm not entirely certain what they're gonna do with that, but yeah. So it's an interesting scenario because without that volunteer participation, you are not going to reach people. And as we saw every year, every election cycle, the majority of people don't vote at all, primary or general election, because they're like, my vote doesn't count, or I don't know, or I'm not comfortable.
Disenfranchisement.
There's that. So this is why you have to have volunteers making the phone calls and trying to get out that vote. If Biden people are not signing up for phone banks and texts and things like that, hey, we are definitely going to get Trump. So that's...
I would imagine phone banking for Biden would go something like, "Hi, I'm calling for Biden. Are you going to bother voting?" No, me neither. Okay, bye.
Well, those were the stories coming out of the Bloomberg volunteers, right? He was paying people like $300 a day, which is nothing to sniff at, but they were canvassing door to door for him and just were so dejected because, this one guy said, I empathize with this volunteer. I know you got to pay your rent, but he just was like, had an entire day of people saying, no, not voting Bloomberg. No. So 8 hours of that is enough to break anybody's will. So good luck, Team Biden. Yay.
Well, the other thing is, why? Why even bother, right? Biden's clearly the front runner, right? And he hasn't done anything. He hasn't had to canvass. He hasn't had to make appearances. And mysteriously, he's leading, right? So sure, we'll get right on that phone banking thing.
Well, and that's exactly it. I think they're going to drop the ball, and we're all going to get our feelings hurt, right? Because even those of us who vote, or at least try to, it's not going to be enough. How do you win elections? Get more votes. So you need to reach out to these people who are disenfranchised or on the fence or whatnot, which is why I think the guest that we have on today is so important. So for those of you who weren't paying attention to all the texts on social media, today we are delighted to bring on Warren Lynch. He lives in Malden, Massachusetts, and he has been a longtime progressive Bernie supporter. But what's amazing about what he's doing there is, first, he's hilariously snarky, and it's so much fun to watch. But Massachusetts has recently, and in past elections, gotten a number of progressives elected to key state and local races, and they just keep winning. So while everybody's focused on Bernie at the top, Bernie said, not me, us. Like, even if Bernie sailed through and got the presidency, if we give him a neoliberal Congress of Republicans and Democrats who are...
Which is clearly the case, right? Like, I mean, it's Bernie being president, he'll have some ability to do some executive order type things, right? But trying to get that body to agree on anything is going to be next to impossible. Now, if anybody could do it, it would possibly be, Bernie, the amendment king. But let's be honest, right? No, real change isn't going to happen until the politicians change to the will of the people, right? It's always been the case. You don't look to politicians to make the change. You watch the politicians change because the people make that change, right?
Oh, that's exactly right. Absolutely. So with that in mind, we're going to bring on our guest. We are so delighted. Mr. Warren Lynch, you are muted. Let's fix that real quick. Yay.
He has to
unmute.
there.
Oh.
So close.
Welcome.
Am I muted? No, you're good.
Yay.
Oh, good.
Welcome. Hello. Thank
Technology. What?
Technology, when it works. Oh, there's the famous hair too. So for the one or two people who are not familiar with Warren right now, he is famous for, like I said before, his snarky renditions of meetings and debates and policy, and I am just so here for everything that you do when you write, because it's a much more entertaining way to look at politics. So welcome, Warren. Thank you for getting up so early.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on.
This is wonderful. So we were just talking about all of the success that has happened in Massachusetts with progressive wins. Can you kind of elaborate on some of that?
Sure. So, yeah, we got Ayanna Pressley into office and a bunch of state legislators that are progressives. And we took over a bunch of city councils with progressives, and that's kind of where the most powerful success is, because when Bernie said that a revolution starts from the bottom up, that means not just with the voters, but also the small offices. So every town, usually on the off years, the odd years, they have elections for town offices, and how progressive the people in charge of your town are can have a huge effect on your state, which has a huge effect on the national conversation. So, like, for example, there's a lawyer working for Normal, the cannabis pro-cannabis organization, living in Malden. And I brought her to city council and showed her how fun it was to make fun of the people lying on the stage. And she had so much fun with it. She ended up, she wrote a ballot initiative that got cannabis legalized in our state, and she ended up becoming the state commissioner for cannabis for us.
Wow, that's an amazing. So she went from just casual observer, and she had her activist background with her issue, and she went from casual observer to elected, right?
Yes, she was already an activist, but the key is the snarking and the fun and the memes. If it becomes a scene where it's the fun thing to make fun of your local politicians, and everybody's talking about it and gossiping about it to each other, it creates a whole lot of momentum, and we got $1.6 billion for the schools.
Wow.
We got our entire state platform changed, and Bernie Sanders said it was maybe the most progressive state platform in U.S. history. And our city council used to be majority conservative and run by an actual KKK member, far-right guy.
And they're fun. Those people are so fun.
Yeah. And he ran as a Democrat.
Of course he did. And this is how we started the show.
Party. We
yes.
already talked about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had Republicans on there, and he was to the right of them.
Oh, wow.
You know, this guy's in the KKK. He says multiculturalism is a plot by the rich to take over America with evil or something. He wants to stop multiculturalism with this neo-Nazi.
Okay, so I want to bring on an example of how Warren, when he's talking about the snark and making fun of people, I clipped an example from your Facebook feed. This was your post from just a few years ago. So I'm going to bring this up so people can see it.
All right.
Let me see here. There it is. Okay, so for those who may not be watching the screen, I'm going to read it. I'm going to try to get through it without crying. So this was, I guess, day before in Malden, your local meeting. Jerry, and you nicknamed him the Beef, Leone, announces he finally organized the Malden Republicans after 2 years of them not doing anything. Other Republicans call him an asshole and wish him a happy Easter. This begins an epic battle between 30 people about Jesus versus Moses versus the Easter Bunny. Jesus and Moses are the clear winners, and I think Moses wins the final battle. But there is a ton of swearing and body slamming of prophets and bunnies, and everyone leaves crying. But today in Malden, former city councilor Neil Darth Kinnan suggests we eradicate coronavirus by just killing all the old and sick people. 3 people get muted for swearing at him in an extended sailor-like fashion. And Neil gets muted for, being a fake news posting guy like he usually does. 60 people have something angry to say about it. Left, right, center, and fringe all body slam Neil in unison. Everyone leaves singing in beautiful harmony. Okay, so while it sounds just incredible and hilarious, this is pretty accurate, right? Wouldn't you say? I mean...
Oh, yeah, so he used to be considered... normal Malden, because he was the loudest and he would bully everyone. So they would and he would tell everyone that all of normal Malden voters believed the same things as him. And even though the city council was majority Democrats and the city is majority independents with a few Republicans and more Democrats than them, he would just run everything. Because, he said he was normal, so people had no contrary argument. But me and Steve and a bunch of our progressive friends went there every week and made fun of him and pointed out his lies and put them on the internet. And now, 3 years later, he's the laughingstock in our town. He's the, left and right, center, fringe, they all make fun of him now, and so he says his horrible stuff about coronavirus is fake and racist dog whistles and stuff, and everyone laughs at him, and we all get together and we're all suddenly united against this far right douchebag.
So basically, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But you're doing it with snark and humor, which I think is just beautiful. So we've been to local county board meetings because we have these people too. And we've done meeting bingo in the back row, and every time, our county chair has an impassioned plea and gets that fake tear, go ahead and mark your ballot. And you're right, it really does, number one, get people to pay attention to what is otherwise a boring meeting, but it also helps them to pay attention more and understand exactly what's going on. right? To kind of piece it together. So how much of this do you think when people, they say, I don't want to be involved in politics, it's because they just don't know what's going on?
90%. Because it's very boring and complicated on the surface level. But if a few of your friends are there, and they've been there before and they know these people, or you go your first time and it's mysterious and you talk about how weird it is, they can simplify it so other people understand what's going on better, like you said, and B, make it fun. And if it's fun, it becomes easy, more worth it to piece through the boring stuff and figure out what they're saying about the sign ordinance or whatever. And one of the most fun things to do is point out when people are lying and,
So how do you do that? Are you, Waldorf, who is it, Stotler and Waldorf in the back row screaming? Or how exactly does this happen with you?
Well, so in Massachusetts, you're not allowed to talk unless you're at the microphone, but you are allowed to rustle papers, cough, make noises, and text your friends.
Right.
yeah, exactly. And that's what we do. When someone lies, we laugh. You're allowed to laugh, and we laugh. And then other people are like, why are they laughing? And we whisper amongst ourselves.
It sounds like real life Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. And then afterwards, we go and talk about it on the regular Twitter and Facebook and be like, oh my God, can you believe what that guy said? And, on our very first meeting, my girlfriend Steve, one of the city councilors referred directly to her and made fun of her from the stage on television.
What? Oh, no.
And she gave him the finger, the local news cameras just happened to be pointed at her at the time, and she ended up on television giving the guy the finger.
I love it.
It was a huge scandal. They had a special meeting afterwards, and they made up a special rule called that, informally referred to as the Steve rule, where
you aren't allowed to show up with fingers.
Right. Right.
You are allowed to once, but if you do two, if you give the finger twice, then they escort you out now.
Oh,
but
really?
There was no rule for that before.
So just the one finger. You could switch to like 2 or 3 now, or does all that count against you too?
No, that doesn't count against you. They wrote it as obscene gestures.
Right. There's nothing that stops you from scratching your nose.
Yeah,
right.
You can do that one for sure.
That's awesome.
And if it's not on camera, it doesn't count too. So.
Right, exactly.
Right. So you do it first, then you laugh and cough, right? And by the time you've done that, then the camera's to you and your hands are down.
Very true.
Yeah, or just however, have fun with it, for sure. Steve also got yelled at by a city councilor, jumped off the stage and started yelling at her, calling her young lady because she was making Skeksis noises. You know the Dark Crystal?
Okay, now you went way back. Hold on, I'm trying to remember the skit.
With the Gelflings and the...
Yeah. Oh! Yes, okay.
Yes, we make peas. The character who's lying all the time. And
yes.
So when Councilor Matheson was like just lying his ass off, Steve was like, yes, Gelfling. And something about that just high-pitched noise of just up on all the microphones and just disrupted everything, ruined his entire speech. This other guy, a Republican, jumped off the stage and started screaming at her about it.
Oh God!
Like, it was all on television. It was so much fun. And then we went and told all our friends, and
We're gonna have to, Andy. We're gonna have to go out and take clips.
I would watch that reality TV.
That's what I'm saying. We're gonna have to take clips and Adventures in Malden and just do little clips of their meetings. Maybe, Warren, we could actually get like local council meetings to become like the new ladies' night out or the new comedy adventure.
It is in Malden right now, and the neighboring town is starting to get that way too. And I'd love it if in more towns, because every town it's like there's a hilarious angle you can look at it through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Senate is really boring too, but Jon Stewart would just take these little clips of, you know, when somebody lies, there's something really hilarious about that.
when it's so obvious a lot. Let's do that, Andy. Let's do an award program for most ridiculous.
I think you've got a potential for an entire network, right? So, and the tagline is all snark all the time.
Right. Yeah. Warren, if we are able to pull this together, I would love for you to be a judge and help us put together an award. Maybe it's like a little golden toilet bowl or something. And
yeah, I'd love to.
We can do that. That way we can get people to actual meetings, like my own meeting here. We have Tea Party people who are now in charge, and we elected by 35 votes a Tea Party person who has bankrupted my township through his complete idiocy. He lives now in Missouri. He doesn't even live here. He tried to fire 3 union reps on day one. I was there to witness the firing, and that cost us total in court fees $700,000. And mine is not a big township. But the whole goal with these people is they hate townships, they hate villages, they want to do away with big government. Well, you're the one who's plowing my road. So I don't get it. But so we have just such, I'm pretty sure that we could come close to what you've got going on in Malden. I can't top a KKK because none of them are. We did try to have the Sons and Daughters of Liberty try to adopt a highway here, which was super fun.
Yeah, well, Malden is not special. Every town has these weird characters in there, and if you get enough of your friends gossiping about it, it becomes critical mass, and that's the ladies' night out thing to do. Totally.
We could totally make it a thing. So now I want to switch gears a little bit. You yourself have been. I don't want to say struggling because none of this stuff happens overnight, but you have been working towards getting permits for recreational cannabis in your local area. So you want to talk about that a little bit, what that has looked like for you?
Sure. Let's see. So Shailene Title is the lawyer that I was talking about before. Mm-hmm. And she lived in Malden, and so when we managed to pass legalization statewide, they did it on a town by town basis, where the towns get to decide the final rule framework. Mm-hmm. And so each town had to figure that out for themselves. And as you know, most towns are just, it's a few old people in the audience, and everything just gets passed behind everybody's backs, pretty much.
Right.
So even though all kinds of Massachusetts towns, the voters were in favor of legal cannabis, the town would ban it and be like, well, not in our town, not in my backyard. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to make sure that didn't happen because my girlfriend Steve uses medical cannabis. Mm-hmm. And has chronic pain. I use medical cannabis, and we want access to high quality cannabis in our town. We deserve it. Our town voted for it in the majority, and so just I just kept showing up to meetings to try and make sure that happened. And we teamed up with the Libertarians because the Democrats were all chicken.
Okay. So of course, Libertarians,
Libertarian is a Republican with a bong.
Yeah, but they did have a bong, and they were in favor of cannabis.
Right. More power, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that because, like here in Illinois, we were all going to die when we legalized it for recreational. We'd had medical for a while, and then it went to recreational, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Everything stayed the same. And wow, look at all the sales tax we're now generating. So even in my own little township, I have to drive to a whole nother county for my dispensary. So there was a fight here, and we had to educate, you're right, the 98-year-old person and say, no, okay, look, it's a drive-through. You place your order online, and they're like, what's that? Well, you place your order online, you drive to the place, and either, you go in or something happens, and then you leave. There's no traffic. It's faster than Starbucks, I guarantee it, and we will make more money.
It's not as expensive either.
Right. So it'll bring down our property taxes, and at that they go, wait, what? Property taxes?
Property taxes, yeah, exactly.
Right. So they really have a hard time putting one and one together to get to where they have said for years they want to go, and do it through something like legalization and having a local dispensary. Right, so
yeah, and you got to hold their hand and help them get there, in a local way, which you did the exact thing to get that done, and we did that in Malden, and therefore we're going to have 5 dispensaries, and all 8 surrounding towns, they all banned.
So Malden is going to get all that
Tourism
revenue.
is really going to pick up.
Yeah. And we'll finally be able to fix the schools and the lead pipes.
And if you're at all into baking, now is the time to open a little bake shop. I guarantee it. Do it. Absolutely. Girl Scouts figured this out, right? Do the same thing. We still don't have a dispensary in my county, but we're fighting for it.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll keep fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes good sense because, like in my own case, I use it for medical because my own doctor, who's 60-ish, he was like, okay, I've got 2 options for you: opioids, or have you thought about cannabis? I was like, first, I'm shocked to hear you say that, and he's like, no, it's proven effective. So that's the way that I went, right? Because opioids are just, we're talking chronic issues, so I would be a lifetime on expensive, addictive opioids.
Yeah, there's so many side effects. They're addictive. They can kill you. We need alternatives to opioids for patients, and frankly, we need a recreational alternative to alcohol, because alcohol kills people and is addictive, and has a lot more side effects too. But that conversation, you have to hold people's hands, and it has to be the local people in your town. It takes a long time, and you're doing the right thing just because you've been trying for a couple years. Keep at it. You can do it. Because like my friend Ed, he fought for 3.5 years in his town, and he got to the point where he'd just given up, and he was doing nothing but snarking about it and being like, these assholes are never going to let me in. The establishment is just totally going to crush me. And then suddenly he got his license.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a good way to look at it. just keep at them, be tenacious, and snark is a hell of a motivator.
Make it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my last questions for you, and this is totally unfair early in the morning, but the way that I met you and got on the Warren Lynch train was all the data that you were collecting.
Oh, you want the hat?
I do. Data wizard. Do you have it?
I think so.
So,
does it have like stars and moons on it?
Yeah, it's the awesomest hat.
That he can't find. But for those,
in a second,
for those who weren't aware, Warren had been posting data on all the progressives that had been elected in every state, in every race, and doing it for a number of years. So he got kind of the nickname of Data Wizard. So if you wanted to know who got elected and how many, you went to Warren, or you followed his post. He's got the hat. He's got the hat. There it is. Yeah, with the birdie on it. There you go.
Is it on right? I can't see. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is. Yep.
It's like that Harry Potter hat that puts you in the house. What did they call
The
that?
sorting
The
hat.
sorting hat.
Yeah, it's my sword.
Right.
Yeah. So
That's a great look. You could do snark with that hat on. Do they let you wear them at the meetings?
Yeah. There's no dress code.
Nice.
Let me tell you a story, by the way, on the snark front. So the fourth most powerful Republican in Massachusetts was in Malden, and he was an elected city councilor, and had run for Secretary of State a number of times, and was running the whole Massachusetts State Republican Party. And we started calling him Sewer Lips.
Just pick a nickname, stick with it. Yeah.
Because we had this huge lead pipes problem in Malden, and he was like fighting against it. But at the same time, when he had run for Secretary of State, the guy who ran against him, William Galvin, said that he spews lies like a broken sewer pipe. And so, you know, if our Secretary of State says he spews lies like a broken sewer pipe, then calling him Sewer Lips isn't, you know, such a large stretch, and it kind of caught on, actually.
Sewer Lips.
We weren't even trying to take him down, but the nickname just went viral, and people started calling him and his wife that in restaurants.
Oh, are you kidding? I can see his wife like, why are they calling you this? What is going on? Oh my god.
He got booted out of office. A progressive took over his seat.
You know what? There's a strategy here. I really, really like it, and I enjoy it, because progressives, we don't know how to win. We are so used to losing that we just get demoralized and walk away. But what you're showing here is something that is not only effective, but a whole lot of fun, right? So,
yeah. And if you can have fun, even if you're losing, even if you're sure that you're going to lose and you're just going to have fun and make a joke about it, keep doing that week after week after week, and you'll win. I'm now the vice chair of the Ward 2 Democrats from Malden as of day before yesterday.
What? Congratulations!
Wow.
When we first started, we weren't even allowed to vote, because me and Steve are former independents, and they're like, "You're not real Democrats. You can't hold any seats in our Malden Democrats." But now our friends hold all 6 out of 6 of the leadership positions in Malden Democrats, and I'm the vice chair.
So those meetings, oh my god, you gotta start streaming those meetings.
Like, yeah, when we first went, no one would let us talk. They called us Russian spies, and they said that we were secret Republicans trying to destroy the Democratic Party. And
I love it.
And they said week after week that we were doing that, and we just sort of sat there nicely with our hands folded, and we were like, well, we took pictures and told our friends, and finally, you know, Steve got a chance to speak at some meeting, and she just stood up nicely and was like, you know, everybody, I'm not a Republican. And it was just so obvious.
Right.
She wasn't a Republican. And finally they changed all the rules. And, like, they made all these special rules before that to keep us out. And we felt like we had no chances of winning anything. And we probably didn't for the whole first 3/4 of a year.
Right.
But we just had so much fun with it. It became the end thing to do. And suddenly we were winning everything because people were having so much fun that democracy is what's popular, and what's popular is a lot of times what's fun. Mm-hmm. You can make it fun.
So how many people would you say were showing up to the meetings with you? So there's you and Steve, and about how many? So
we started out, there was 5 of us and 1 didn't show up. So 4 of us showed up the first time. And by the end of the month, there was 15 of us. by the end of the year, there was 35 of us, and halfway through the next year, there was 150 of us, and we're the biggest, most influential group in the entire city. The senior ladies are number one.
And they will always be number one. You don't forget that.
We're number 3, but we're bigger than the Democrats. We're bigger than the Libertarian, everybody.
Wow. So with just a handful of good friends, you can take things over and make it what it should be, right? So Democratic Party...
and it takes so few people.
So this is something that Joseph Trina was saying too, down in Georgia. Now his fight is completely different, but there were only 5 of them at first, and just be there, show up, right? Now I'm banned from my county party meetings. They will not let me in. But I strongly encourage everyone else. You follow this lead. What a great example. Right?
Thanks. A big part of it is the critical mass. So if you go by yourself, you're going to feel like an enemy, and everyone will you'll have no fun at all. No one will smile at you. You'll feel like you're in the Iceland of hell. And if you go with one other person, you can laugh and hold hands with that person. But if it's 3 people, suddenly you're...
Then it starts to have legitimacy.
Yes.
Right?
4 people, that's critical mass. It becomes a scene.
Then
it's acceptable. Then you're accepting snark in the meeting, right? At 4. Are you the secretary of snark?
I'm the vice. What am I? The vice chair of snark? I don't know. I'm the sorcerer of snark.
There you go. Wear your hat and make sure everyone knows. But wow. Okay, so now you guys, there's 6 out of 6 of you holding these seats. What are you gonna do now? This is like the peak, right? The summit. Are you done? What's going on?
Oh no, it's just getting started. Like we took over the Malden Democrats. We also took over the Malden City Council. We've taken over and we started our revolution group in Malden, and our revolution group helped the local unions get way more powerful than they already were. So now the unions are the most powerful coalition of unions in all of New England. And they're just passing stuff left and right. We're going to be the first town to have rent control in all of New England in the past 20 years. We're ahead of Somerville. We're in a contest with Somerville to see who could be the most progressive. So they're this sort of like rich hipster town next door, which has a lot of progressives in it, and they're rich, and we have fewer progressives, and we're working class, but we're getting more fights because we have less to lose.
The brawlers live in Malden.
Brawlers, yeah. And so they try and get progressive things passed ahead of the whole state, and we do too, and it's a contest. Can Somerville do it first or Malden do it first? And we're going to reform the whole state, and everybody else can try and catch up to us. The neighboring town of Everett, they're having a progressive takeover. The other neighboring town, Medford, and Melrose to the north of us just got a progressive mayor, and it's going to start a snowball. If I can convey to people how to spread that snark, we can take over everything. Everything.
I love it.
Okay.
It'd be huge.
Liz Warren is going to move.
Yeah. We have a couple challengers already.
Do you? Excellent. Okay. Yeah, so I think that right there there's a formula to it. You can repeat this anywhere. Just show up, number 1. Number 2, don't take it personally, because there's a whole lot of power and money at stake here. So of course people are going to push back. Of course,
Oh,
people
they'll fuck with you. They'll try and crush you. They'll try and smash your face. That's why you have to have your friends there, so you can be like, "Oh my God, what was that?"
But then you gotta keep getting back up and going, right? Don't take it personally. Just like, yeah, the time is coming, and at some point, enjoy your last because we're taking over, and we're not going away.
Yeah, laugh while you can, conservatives. You are the future.
I love it. I love it. This is perfect, and Warren, this is exactly why I think we needed to have this conversation, because right now you have so many people who are confused and, let's face it, demoralized about Bernie Sanders pausing his campaign, and we cannot stress enough, he did not end his campaign. He's still earning pleos and delegates and everything else, which was a brilliant jujitsu move. Right? Let's stop this and put all the focus on Biden right now, while Bernie is still, I think your favorite person, Don Ford. We're going to move into the I hate Don Ford segment, which is a regular here. So, damn it, Don Ford. But he actually said,
we're getting T-shirts.
Yeah, we are totally. He said it. I think that people need to understand you don't even need a campaign to run for office.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. In fact, this year in 2020, there have been fewer down ballot progressives and support for them than there was in 2018. And there was no Bernie running in 2018. There was Bernie's movement, and that was it. There was no campaign. And the campaign actually can be a little bit distracting because people, they worry about their nation and everything. But we also have our local issues, and you can have so much more power over them.
Yep, that's absolutely true. So for our young Bernie-crats who still don't understand how it works, it's okay. Hang on, pick yourselves up. Yeah, well, especially when you have what's going on now is New York and Ohio are trying to say that no, we're going to take them off the ballot. They can't do it. Just read the rules, because and I've said this many times. If you read the DNC rules, you are 90% ahead of DNC members themselves. Don't read it. So little things like that. So it allows you when a high-powered $400, $600 an hour attorney says, no, New York is going to do this, and you can just be like, well, you can say everything you want. It says right here that you can't. Yeah. So sorry. It's good to want things, but no, the rules say. And so that's what's going on in New York and Ohio, and you're going to see this. We have 12 other states that still need to have their primaries, and you're going to see them, every one, a neoliberal DNC member is going to say, oh, no, Bernie's not, can't do it. You just can't do it. So I think what people need to understand is, number one, we're tracking towards a contested convention, whenever that's going to happen. And this is why standing your ground and doing it together with snark and humor, the way that we have always done things, is really the way to go, right? Because with everything else going on, this major apocalypse event with COVID and everything, you gotta have a sense of humor, or you're just not gonna get through it.
And go local, because this the effort to stop Bernie's delegates. That's a state-by-state thing, too. Colorado, they're doing one thing, California another thing, and New York another thing. And you can have an effect on your state in a big way, in a way somebody in some other state can't, because there's different rules for every state. And like in New York, when they threw away all those ballots in 2016, there were all these people who showed up to the local elections board and appeared on camera and said, thus and so thing happened to me. My ballot was taken away. My whole building's ballot was taken away, and it was all on camera. And then we made snarky videos about it and put it all over the country. Suddenly, people all over the place were hearing about election fraud, and it was because those people in that neighborhood were able to go to their elections board and do those local videos. Even for Bernie's national race, if you figure out those little local details that are different everywhere, you can have a huge effect on what's happening. And maybe we can save Bernie's nomination. Maybe there's some tiny chance, but we can definitely get a huge effect on that platform. And let me tell you, the platform, it seems like it has no teeth, and it does in a lot of ways, but it can have an amazingly huge effect. We got the state platform changed in Massachusetts, and so that was in 2017, and then in 2018, all the candidates, including all the main establishment candidates and all the just all the mainstream candidates, they were all spouting all those progressive things we put on the platform. They were like, "Oh, I promised to push these things," and they're going to do it in a wishy-washy, watered-down way. But they have to spout it because that's what it says on the platform now. And then this year, a bunch of Bernie-crat people ran to take over the state committee to run the agenda for the Democratic Party in Massachusetts. And there was 92 of them, and all these establishment people from 2018 endorsed them. So Jay Gonzalez, the nominee for the governor, is endorsing them. These 93 radical progressives or 92, sorry, and 83 of them won. So now we control 90% of the state committee because of that platform, the toothless platform that they can't officially enforce it, but it shames people. It becomes the new normal. And we can do that on a national level with the Bernie campaign. The more delegates we get, the more we'll be able to do that. And it can be a really exciting thing.
Oh, absolutely. And then from a communication standpoint, like the media, they do this trying to drive consent. But when you have 80-some progressives who have now been elected to office, wow, that changes the narrative completely, because these fringe radical ideas of wanting people to, live are suddenly not so radical anymore. It becomes mainstream. And I think this is something Bernie has said himself, that they called us radical, they called us socialist, they called us all these things. Well, here we are now. We're arguing for UBI. We're arguing for an expansion of Social Security, for Medicare for all, because we can see now where these policies actually make a difference and would have made a difference had we taken them seriously 2016, 17, and beyond, right? We'd be in a very different place now.
Yeah, and we can move that window of acceptable, discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's really radical one day, the next day is mainstream, and we're totally doing that together, and it's all of us having individual conversations. Like, Bernie does a great job, he's a great speaker, but it's all these other people echoing these same ideas all over the country that is really making it stick, and I'm really proud of us.
Well, thank you, Warren. What was a crappy Monday turned into now bright and sunny. There's hope here. So what a great mess, and the hat, and this fantastic hat. So, Andy, do you have anything that you want to address?
Just I think the next tagline should be "Not me, us plus snark."
That's exactly right. Right. And if you could, Warren, we really want to get a soundbite of Steve making that horrific noise from the Dark Crystal. She's
still asleep, but I'll send you one.
That not while she's sleeping. Just stare at her while she's sleeping.
Later.
Do that for me. That would be great. But yeah, if we could get a sound bite of her doing that, oh, that would be great. And then we're gonna have to do the rep your town at the meeting with Snark. We'll do an awards, and then at the end of the year, we can have a whole big to do about winning nominations. So this would be
Awesome.
great. So thank you, Warren, for joining us. Andy, it's always a pleasure.
Of course.
Yes, thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you for making my morning brighter.
And on that note, we're going to get out of here, but we will be back bright and early Wednesday morning. We have an amazing guest lined up, Ellie Spawn, who is out. She's represents the Progressive Party out of Vermont, but she herself, I believe, is from Washington State. So that party is looking to expand nationwide, and Vermont is unique in that you can run as a hybrid, a Dem and a Progressive Party member. So what does that look like for the rest of the country? Interesting.
That's a prem.
Yeah, it's a prem. We're prems. So stay tuned for that on Wednesday morning, and we'll see you then. So have a very good day, everyone.
Thanks, Warren.
This is Progressive Insider.
I want you guys to pass legislation that says that
Progressive Insider, you know they wiser. It's that new media company covering everything. I'm talking that news you ain't heard of, cause you know it's getting buried. Social justice.